It's 2 a.m. on an early morning in October 2015, and at Florida's Camp Rudder, it's dark outside and cold. Major Lisa Jaster had the chills, but she wasn't sure if it was the weather or her nerves. For decades, the Army's famed Ranger School had only been open to men, but that restriction had been lifted just months earlier, and Lisa was one of the first women who had been accepted into the training program. Vying for the illustrious Ranger tab, however, had come with many sacrifices.
So by the time I was going through Florida, my life had imploded. I was away from my full-time job. They weren't paying me. My dad was diagnosed with a terminal cancer. Didn't know if I was ever going to see him again.
Her 6 months there had been difficult, to put it mildly. And as Lisa returned from a long ruck march that morning, waiting for feedback on her performance, she just didn't know what to expect.
I'm walking back with the Ranger instructor, and he's giving me my back brief. And there's kind of a well-known cue that if somebody says that physical fitness is one of your fortes, it's one of your 3 positives that they give you, because they have to give you 3 positives and 3 negatives, that's the indicator that you failed. Because if all they can say is you're physically fit, well, you're at Ranger School, of course you're physically fit. So he gave me physical fitness as a negative. And I was like, wait a minute. Nobody told me, does that mean I'm a go? Does that mean I passed? Or does he really think I'm that bad? And he starts talking about my physical fitness, and you've been here for 6 months and your body's starting to break down. And I'm just imploding because I think, God, I'm so bad. He couldn't even give me that as a positive.
When they got back to the barracks, the instructor started calling everyone up, one by one, to let them know their results.
Now, this pass or fail is the one that sends you home with a tab or with nothing but a shaved head. And I'm looking at my Ranger instructor, really boring into his soul. And he's like, well, if you failed, would you do this again? You know, what are your thoughts? And he's starting asking me all these questions. And I'm like, Mother of God, please. And finally, he's like, Ranger Jaster, you are a go. Apparently, everybody in my squad either already knew it, read his lips, or something like that. And these people I'd been with off and on for a long time. I turn around and those adult males were doing cartwheels and singing and dancing and looking like they were throwing a party. And I am completely like, wait a second, what does this mean? Whoa. And so it was just this really emotionless but dynamic moment in my life where I really didn't know how to react. And it was pretty cool because if it wasn't for my teammates there, I think I would have just been in complete disbelief.
The Army Ranger School is well known to be one of the most physically grueling programs in the world, selecting only the best of the best. And yes, it was challenging for now Colonel Lisa Jaster, but it was just one of many significant accomplishments she's had during her Army and business career. From her years-long quest to attend West Point, to competing in multiple fitness competitions, to the challenge of writing about herself with her 2023 autobiography, Delete the Adjective, A Soldier's Adventures in Ranger School. In today's episode, our hosts sit down with Lisa to talk about her experiences as the first female reserve officer to make it through Ranger School. What drives her to constantly challenge herself through fitness competitions? And a heartwarming story about her status as part of the first ever father-daughter Ranger School combo. I'm Carrie Varo-Heikes, and this is Army Matters.
General Dynamics Land Systems is at the leading edge of predictive and prognostic maintenance with its Vitals AI-powered vehicle intelligence tools. Vitals software increases operational readiness rates through forward-looking, decision-actionable logistics data. Vitals is compatible with all Army vehicles and is ready for demos today.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to your next episode of Army Matters. Well, we talk about things, we have fun, and we have great guests. Dan, how are you doing today?
Les, I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Dan.
Yeah.
What do you remember the most about your Ranger School experience?
Starving.
Starving?
Starving, cold.
Is that what you remember the most?
Yeah. I had a little, my little leader's notebook. I had like 4 pages of all the things I was going to eat when I graduated.
4 pages of it.
I did.
Yeah.
My Ranger buddy and I would sit in the foxhole and talk about, I'm going to have some pancakes. I'm going to get some eggs. All I wanted was to go eat breakfast.
Yeah.
And not be yelled at.
Not be yelled at because you had to eat it so fast. What you had. Yeah.
I remember a lot about it. I mean, it's a very humbling leadership course that made me learn a whole lot about myself.
Mm-hmm.
It forced me to do that in an environment that tests your limits, not just physical, but mental and emotional.
Mm-hmm.
So, Les, you have an interesting story about Ranger School, don't you?
Yes, I do. When I got kicked out. It was very humbling.
Yeah. And people don't make fun of people for getting kicked out of Ranger School. Because
I didn't get kicked out. I was medically dropped. But it was very humbling.
Where'd you get dropped at?
In the mountain phase.
Mountain phase, yeah.
Yeah. It was.
It'll wear you down. And you could have an accident like that. Yeah.
You remember that little thingy right there?
Oh, the scar. The scar.
So I had like an abrasion. They thought they were going to have to grab some skin on it.
Oh.
It was pretty deep.
Yeah.
But it was probably one of the most humbling things in my life, of being medically dropped.
Well, then let me ask you, what makes Ranger School so hard in your mind?
Because it does test your limits. It tests your ability to adapt to people in a lot of different places.
Yeah.
You don't know what's next.
You don't know what's next.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You don't know what's next. And so you went as a young trooper too. As a young captain, I was like, wow. And you just get humbled down to their levels. So how about for you?
The combination of the, living in an austere environment continuously, low caloric intake, challenging your limits of being able to build the team under stressful conditions, and everybody's tired and wet and hungry, and it's just so difficult to get people to do things, not because they don't want to. It's just a lack of energy and ability based upon how broke down you get. Yeah.
So Dan, the reason why we're talking about Ranger School is today's guest was the Army Reserve's first female graduate of Ranger School. What do you think about that?
That is incredible. And the great thing is she's right here in the studio with us.
What?
Yes. Colonel Lisa Jaster. Welcome to Army Matters.
Thanks for having me, Sergeant Major.
Welcome, Lisa. So should we sing the engineer song?
Do
you remember it? You forgot it. Oh, that's your
song. That's all I got.
We're going to do it at the end, so you better be ready.
Lisa, how are you doing today?
Fantastic. How are you?
Oh, we're doing great. So we're going to start off with a quote that I know is very important to you. And that quote is, "A ship is always safe at the shore, but it's not what it's built for." Do you remember the first time you heard that? And what does that quote mean to you?
Oddly enough, I don't remember the first time I heard it, but for some reason, I put it in my signature block on my email at Shell. And I will tell you the most memorable time I heard that quote. And that would be when my husband repeated it back to me to beat me over the head and use it as leverage to get me to sign up for Ranger School. And he literally used it as a reference for me as a human saying, "Hey, Lisa, you were built to try this. I don't know why you're being resistant." And then he repeated back, "The ship is safe at the shore."
So, Lisa, let's pull a thread on that a little bit more. How did you discover the opportunity for Ranger School, and what decision led to that?
Sergeant Major Robbie Payne, to this day, a great friend. And he had forwarded me this email, the request from the Army saying, "Hey, we're looking to see if women are actually interested in going to Ranger School." I had seen it and deleted it on my reserve email. I was really not interested. Mother of 2 small children, actually happily married, no reason to run away from my husband for an extended period of time. Loved my job at Shell, was doing cool stuff. Sergeant Major Payne sends me this email and he's like, "Hey, me and some other people were talking about this, and we really think that you're the type of person who should put your name in the hat." And I remember just replying to him saying, "Sergeant Major, I love room service, so no." And that was it. And from there, Sergeant Major, as Sergeant Majors like to do, realized a frontal attack was not appropriate. So he started his flanking maneuver by contacting my husband. So my husband decided to incorporate my children. And then fast forward, I'm sitting at dinner with my 2 young children and my husband, and Alan throws the quote at me, "Hey, baby, you were made for this." And my kids are, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed doe eyes. "Mommy, what's Daddy talking about?" And there you go. I mean, the rest is literally history.
Wow. Okay. So the kids were in on it too.
Oh, yeah. Very manipulative. No, it was good too, because how my husband approached it was probably the best possible way he could have approached it, because I had the buy-in of my family before I even started considering it myself.
Nice.
So let's rewind a little bit, Lisa. I understand that your father served in the Army.
He
and
did.
He was also a Ranger.
He was.
Tell us a little bit about that and what lessons you learned from him growing up.
So he was the recipient of a Silver Star, 4 Purple Hearts. He was medevaced from Korea 3 times. And after the first time, he could have stayed home side. And even after his 4th Purple Heart, the military offered him a non-deployable position being an instructor at West Point. They wanted to keep him in the military. And he said, "No, I can do so much more." And he went to med school and became a doctor. And he continued to serve his country in the VA until just a handful of years before he died as a medical professional. And what that taught me is you can always do that one more thing. And maybe your body starts failing, which, I turned 48 next month. So I'm at that point in my life where I can't deadlift, I can't squat, I can't run, I can't do everything as well as I used to. But there's a whole lot of stuff out there that I'm constantly getting better at. And I think that's what I really learned from my dad is, as your body fails, then your mind needs to improve. Your faith needs to improve. Your ability to be an active contributor to your community has to improve so that you're always adding value. It's just not the value your 20-year-old self would have thought that you were going to be adding.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So you decided to attend West Point at a very young age.
I did.
How old were you? And what were the letters that you wrote to Congress people in advance of that? I want to know. I mean, it's pretty deliberate process.
Yeah. Yes, sir. So I was in about 7th grade when the first Gulf War happened. And I remember watching TV and seeing, instead of the superheroes dressed in costumes, the actors pretending to be someone else, I saw real people doing real things. Again, being from a small Midwest town, it's a very very patriotic community to grow up in. I was in the band. So I was in all the parades. You're listening to these people talk about their experience, but when you're 11, 12 years old, it doesn't really seem like anything until you see them live on TV doing the things that these old fuddy-duddies in town said. They're living it. And so at that moment, something clicked with me that I want to be more. And I don't know what that looks like, but I know that looks cool. So I'm going to start there. And so in 7th grade, I happened to take a really good school picture. Now, I, like most teenage girls, always thought I looked ugly in my school photos. I mean, it's just a truth. And I had a really good school picture. So I wrote letters to my senators and congressmen, and I included my school picture. So 8th grade, I did the same thing. I did it freshman, sophomore, junior year. And it got to the point where...
Wow. I was at the 7th grade.
7th, 8th, freshman, sophomore. So my mom started taking me anytime our political representatives came anywhere near Plymouth. She was willing to take me and have me sit in the back. And it was me and a bunch of people who did not have full-time jobs, usually retirees, sitting there going, this I care about, this I don't. And by the time I was interviewing with our congressmen and senators, they had all my school pictures. They had a file on me. They had all my letters. It was moderately embarrassing, but also it was the right thing for me to do because I was all in.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So Lisa, all this effort you put into getting in there at a very young age, which is the first time I've ever heard anybody at that age start their pursuit to West Point. But you were disappointed at first when you got there. Why was that?
I think I had this image in my head that everybody was going to be so perfect, so amazing. And when I got there, I realized that they were all human and we're all fallible. And I love the saying, you are a cross-section of the 5 people you're closest to. And for some reason, I thought I was going to be the lowest possible common denominator of this group of people. And it turns out that they were my people and I fit. And that sounds like a great thing, but I also wanted to be the lowest common denominator because I wanted to get dragged up and I wanted to get elevated. And, I say that because that's how I felt at 18. My 25th class reunion is in 2 weeks, and I'm flying back to West Point to see all my classmates. And what I have realized is not only have they pulled me up, but they've pulled me up in so many different ways I didn't realize it. And they're still pulling me up to the point of my old roommate when I was a second lieutenant was like, I know you didn't buy your football ticket, so don't worry, I got one for you already. Like, they know my failures, they know my shortcomings, and they're willing to help me be a better version of myself, even 25 years later.
Nice.
So you studied civil engineering at West Point, and during your first deployment to Afghanistan, you were asked to help rebuild an airfield. And in doing so, you needed a bunch of gravel. Of course, where are you going to get that in the middle of the desert? Can you tell us how the Japanese language helped you accomplish that?
Yeah, so we were fixing what we had broke in the Kandahar airfield. We had problems with planes coming in. Obviously, we had destroyed the airfield as we do when we're in combat operations, and we were trying to repair it.
This is around 2003?
This would be 2002. So we're rebuilding the airfield. We're plugging in the holes. We're trying to figure out a way to get something larger to land. But getting gravel in was very complicated. And we had a Pakistani who was our vendor, and he was bringing in the gravel for us. But he didn't speak English, and I didn't speak any sort of dialects of Arabic, like none of them. But it just so happened that my senior year of high school, I came in with 6 other people before school, and we took a Japanese class. It was online with a TV, actually VHS tapes, if you know anything about the mid-90s. So I had 1 year of online, before there was online, Japanese. And this Pakistani contractor happened to know some Japanese as well. So the way we worked through all of our contracts were from clicks, pops, points, grunts, hand gestures, and my 1 year of high school Japanese. And we communicated quite well, enough that I was able to get everything I needed for that airfield.
Excellent, excellent.
So let's jump back to Ranger School. So just as you were leaving, your husband said something motivating to you. What was it?
So I'm getting in the taxi to go to the airport, and we had just dropped the kids off at school. And he just looked at me and he said, I need you to leave Lisa and Mom at home. From here on out, you're just Major Jaster. And that statement was such a great divide for me because it said all the unsaids. He's got the kids, he's got the house, he's got the family, he's got the home base. And there's not a lot of people, male or female, that can really say, hey, I need you to leave and be 100% focused on you, on the portion of you that you need to succeed.
Nice.
It's a little different than what I was told right before I went to Ranger School.
What was that?
I was told by my first sergeant, don't come back without a Ranger tab.
Pretty valid.
So, Lisa, eventually the kids did serve as an inspiration for Ranger School. Can you tell our listeners about that?
So I went to Ranger School, got recycled again, and had to start all over. During those first 2 phases that I repeated, I tried to be only Major Jaster. And finally, when I was there was a 3-week summer break. So we were there just on holdover for 3 weeks before we restarted. And at some point in time, I said, I need a picture of my kids. And either my husband or my mom sent me this amazing photo, one of each child. And my daughter's wearing like a Wonder Woman pajamas, and my son is wearing Superman something or other. And I laminated that photo and put it in my Ranger handbook. And I remember during the road march, constantly reminding myself that I want to be my kid's superhero, kind of drawing back to that 7th grade experience of seeing those men and women that were serving in the first Gulf War and how they were real. They weren't a comic book character. They weren't a movie character. They weren't an actor. They were real people. And so I drew on that picture and drew on the fact that I do have 2 amazing children, and I want them to look up to me. And it didn't have to be for Ranger School or anything else, but I was already there. I was at Ranger School, and I needed to do my best. And one of my mantras was, if I leave here, could I tell somebody why and hold my head up high? So a broken bone, yep, you can go home. But if I quit, I couldn't look my kids in the eye and be like, hey, I need you to respect me. I need you to follow in my footsteps. So it was a constant reminder that I was here for the long haul, and I was staying in the school and the program until I was forced out one way or the other.
Join AUSA, the Army's premier professional association and host of the largest land power exposition in the United States. AUSA is open to everyone, including all ranks and components. So whether you have a relationship with the U.S. Army or simply want to honor those who serve, you can learn more online at ausa.org/join.
General Dynamics Land Systems, family of short-range air defense solutions, continues to grow. From strikers to tanks to robotics, GDLS has integrated drone-defeating high-powered microwaves, lasers, and kinetic effectors to increase survivability on today's battlefield. Visit our AUSA booth to see the latest in forward-based layered protection.
Welcome back to Army Matters. Now, Lisa, when you were in Ranger School, you received a letter about your father. Can you tell us about it and how it affected you?
So my husband finally wrote me a letter that I got the same day I found out I was recycling Florida that said, I'm not going to tell you anything because he told me not to, but you need to call your father. And I looked at that letter and I was already imploding because of getting recycled again at Ranger School. But I showed it to the RI and he was like, go right now. And I double timed over to the payphone, typed in my 16-digit code. We had Those payphones are not user friendly. So it took me 3 tries. I finally got through because I was frazzled. I finally get through to my father, and he can barely speak. Like, I can't really understand him. And it turned out he had a very, very rare form of cancer, less than 2,000 reported cases worldwide. There's no treatment for it, no cases of anybody surviving. He had radiation on his face. It was glandular, and had part of his jaw removed, which is why I couldn't understand him when he was talking. And I didn't really know how to deal with it. And it just so happened that one of my ranger buddies, his mother was a oncology nurse. And so he immediately used his 3 minutes to call his mom and try to find out some more information about my dad. And I found out the prognosis was really bad. And just to kind of expand on this story, one of my best friends at West Point, her name's Casey Martinez. Her dad, Colonel Bill Martinez, is a former infantryman. And he had written me a note that I had received at the same time as I received that note from my husband. And it said, everybody wants to quit at Ranger School, so you need to set quit criteria. And as soon as I had read that, I thought through, well, what would my quit criteria be? It would be a compound fracture in my lower body, and a death in my immediate family. And as I go to bed that night in my bunk, I start thinking, well, my father hasn't died, and he would never ask me to come home. But based on my quit criteria and based on knowing my father, how could I make him most proud, whether in the afterlife or on earth? And it would be to gut it out, to figure it out, to get out of this wallowing in self-pity status and try to graduate before he moves on to his next stage.
Yeah. Wow.
So, Lisa, you and your father were the first ever father-daughter graduates in Ranger School history.
Yes, sir.
What does that mean to you?
So it means a lot. It means a lot. He did pass in May of 2016. So a few months after we had graduated, I had received a drive-on tab anonymously from a guy who had gone to Ranger School in the year 2000. And they let me keep it because I should have gone. Had I been a male, I would have gone to Ranger School in 2000 after I graduated from West Point. So it was the old BDU sew-on type. And I carried that thing with me the entire time we were in session. And so my final goodbye to my dad was placing that tab in his breast pocket.
It's okay. Take your time.
The coolest part about being the first father-daughter pair is, I'm completely trying to brainwash my children that Navy is the devil, go Army, and if you want to succeed at life, you need to be a West Point grad. I am not even subtle about it, okay? So sent my son to rugby camps up at West Point, and he's thought about it in the past, but it's never been a really serious thing. And then this year, he's a senior. It's time to apply for colleges. And he goes, hey, Mom, what if we were the first father, daughter, son Ranger School graduates? And I was like, oh. And that was how he told me that he was going to apply to West Point.
Nice.
Oh, that's awesome. So, Lisa, in 2016, you were invited to attend the State of the Union address by the First Lady, Michelle Obama. And while you were there, a top Army general had shared some inspiring words with you. Can you tell us about it?
So I was all excited again in Mrs. Obama's motorcade. What an experience. So we're going into the State of the Union, and I literally get physically pulled. And so here I am in the hallway going into the State of the Union address, and I am face to face with the senior Army guy, and I'm a nobody. And so what do you say to him? I'm standing there in awe. And I said, sir, what can I do for the Army? Like, the Army's given me so much. I mean, I'm at the State of the Union. This is an insane experience for a young major. I wasn't so young, but we'll call me young. And he goes, well, I need you to come back on active duty, and, your next job, you can take an infantry battalion or, be a leader and help us integrate women in the infantry. And I looked at him, I was like, no, sir. Number one, I love being an engineer. And number two, I'm a reservist. So what else can I do? And he said, I need you to be loud. I need you to be outward. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, every briefing I've ever received from the PAO says the quiet professional is how you win. And he goes, I need people to see you. And the next phrase, everything else I'm paraphrasing, but the next phrase I remember very distinctly coming out of his mouth. And that's, some people cannot be what they cannot see. And that really stuck with me, because I never doubted my capabilities to succeed. But some people don't have that support system. And his words, again, reading into them, they need that. They need somebody who's a complete stranger that says, hey, listen, if I could do it, you could at least try. And so within a few hours, thanks to that little discussion, I ended up going on MSNBC Live and talking about being a reservist and trying to really help people understand, yes, I am here. This is what I did. And I took his words to heart and said, okay, I'm going to be a little louder than I'm comfortable with.
So Lisa, you're big into sports and physical activity since you've been a youngster. Now, these days, you're competing in CrossFit championships. Can you tell our listeners about a recent event where you didn't win, but you also learned a lot about yourself during the competition?
Yeah. So it's called the Fittest Experience. People come from all over to compete in this specific competition. And the reason why it's such a big deal is because you have to compete to get into the competition. Now, this isn't games level. This isn't, super high in the CrossFit world. But if you're in the Texas area or the southern states, you've heard of the Fittest Experience. And it's really, really well run. It's a combination of powerlifting, gymnastics, cardio, straight up strength, and maybe some stupid human tricks. So I was in the Masters division. It was women over 35, I think. It was like 35 to 40. If you don't know anything about women, we kind of peak at that stage. Like, what I hoped was going to be the old lady division included multiple athletes who had competed at the CrossFit Games, which is the Super Bowl for CrossFit. And I'm looking at this one girl in particular, and I have pictures of her on my refrigerator. Like, she's the girl I look at when it's like, do I eat pumpkin pie or do I have a protein shake? Okay, I'm looking at her. I need to have that protein shake. Like, she's the type of person whose mere existence motivates other people to work out. I'm competing next to her. So the last workout, the one that's going to decide 1st through 10th place, like, we've had people drop out at this point, it's been limited. And I have to compete next to her. And this workout's announced. And it's this sprint. There's one other movement. And then we have to hang power clean. So the bar's at your knees, and you have to pull it up and bring it up to your shoulders and come to a full standing position. And the weight's, I think it's 225 pounds, or it's something that's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I have never once picked that weight up. There was no way. And you had to do it 5 times, go sprint somewhere, do some other workout stuff, sprint back, do it 5 more times. And you had to do it a bunch. And so I'm in the warm-up room, and there's this whole warm-up area, and I'm watching everyone else. And there's 2 girls that don't even walk out onto the court because they're like, I'm not embarrassing myself. And I'm sitting there going, do I practice this now to see if I can do it? If I'm successful, I'm going out there with a great attitude. If I fail here, I might ruin my mojo. I'm trying to war game this. I get out on the actual court in the stadium. Again, my kids are there. My husband's there. I've got friends there. I've got teammates there from my CrossFit gym back in Houston. And I I lift this weight up 3 times. 3 times. So I got my personal record, not once, not twice, but 3 times. But I got done with those 3 reps and I finished terribly. I think I finished top 5 overall, or maybe 6, but that's with 2 people just not starting. And I had done really well on some other workouts. So, I was kind of proud of myself, but it is a little embarrassing to just stand there and try and try and try and fail and fail and fail and have an entire stadium watching you. And all the people that could lift that weight, all the women that were stronger than me, they did this workout in like 2 minutes and they stood around me cheering. We get into the back, the green room, everybody's showering, cleaning up, and I'm just sitting on the floor like a pile of leftovers. And, my kids are trying to hug me, cheer me up. My husband's like, hey, you tried hard, like you were there, A for effort, great job. And this girl who won the whole competition, who also is, somebody that I've admired the entire time I knew what CrossFit was, walks over to me and basically says, you really impressed me. And I'm like, how was that impressive? And she goes, you knew you couldn't do it. And you still walked out there and you still tried. Fearless. And I was like, and of course my husband was like, is that a compliment? And yeah, it was. It was one of those things where if I hadn't tried, I would have never, ever lifted up that weight. So, yeah, that was a pretty huge compliment, but it was also a life lesson that when you feel like quitting, it's time to step it up and try harder.
Yeah. So, Lisa, both you and your husband are very competitive in sports.
You think?
But so let me ask you this. So is there something that you can do better than him? And what can he do better than you?
So I was always in a
Remember now, he's going to listen to this.
Yeah, he's going to listen to it.
Yeah. He's so good physically. Like his body awareness, his hand-eye coordination, even the speed, his reaction speed is phenomenal. And he's 53 and he's still better than me on 90%. But I am a better runner than him because he doesn't run much. So we'll say I'm better at running and hiking. I'm a little lower to the ground, but as a whole, physically, he's better than me at everything. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to keep trying.
What's your junk food of choice after a major athletic event?
God, I got a lot of junk foods of choice, but
give us your favorite.
White chocolate covered pretzels. That's salty sweet, not the yogurt ones. Those things are rubbish. It has to be the white chocolate covered pretzels.
That's pretty specific. That sounds just like an engineer. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, it does. It does. Well, Lisa, it's been amazing talking to you today, and we can't thank you enough for all you've done. And you are a trailblazer, and I can tell you have a level of humility that you don't want to be out there. So I'm glad General Millen, my former boss, told you to go out there and inspire the next generation of men and women to do great things for themselves and our Army. So thank you. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, gentlemen.
We forgot one thing, though.
What's that?
Let's hear it. Essays.
Red and white. I have no idea. Idea.
Pin the castle on my shoulder.
Nope. Yep. It's on my collar. I'm even looking at the words. For the team. You can call me an engineer soldier. The warrior spirit has been my dream.
Now you finish.
We are builders. We are fighters. We are destroyers just as well. I can't.
Let's go to the Essays, whether in war or peace.
We will bear our red and our white. Essays, we serve America and you.
General Dynamics Land Systems has innovated a new concept for mission command on the move. Centered around the Stryker A1 MCOTM vehicle, GDLS's concept revolutionizes Army command posts, which are too easily detected and targeted. Stryker A1 MCOTM is designed for the commanders to direct a battle while maneuvering. See it this month at AUSA. Wear blue, run to remember, is a national community honoring the service and sacrifice of the American military. Find a Wear Blue community run near you. Join us in community, movement, and remembrance. Request a weekly hero match, speak their names, and carry their legacy forward. Visit wearblueruntoremember.org to get started. To all our listeners, thanks for joining us. AUSA's Army Matters podcast is brought to you by the Association of the United States Army, the U.S. Army's professional association, member-supported, Army-connected. Visit us at AUSA.org for more information or to become a member. Your membership helps AUSA continue to carry out its mission, educate, inform, and connect with the total Army, our industry partners, and supporters of a strong national defense. Today's episode was hosted by Lieutenant General retired Les Smith and SMA retired Dan Dailey, and anchor hosted by Carrie Viral-Hackes. Anthony Del Call is the producer and writer, and Andy Bosnack is the associate producer and supervising sound editor. Ellen Toner is the content editor. Unzinga Curry is the executive producer, and the senior producers are Carrie Viral-Hackes and LaSharon Duncan. Be sure to subscribe to the Army Matters podcast wherever you find your podcasts, and please leave a review. As you know, we love seeing stars in the Army, especially if it comes in the form of a 5-star review. AUSA's Army Matters podcast can also be heard on Reese Across America Radio on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern on the iHeartRadio app, the Odyssey app, and the TuneIn app with the search of the word REAP. For questions or to provide topic recommendations, email us at podcast@ausa.org. AUSA's Army Matters podcast primary purpose is to entertain. The podcast does not constitute advice or services. While guests are invited to listen, listeners, please note that you are not being provided professional advice from the podcast or the guest. The views and opinions of our guests do not necessarily reflect the views of AUSA. I'm LaSharon Duncan, hoping you have a great Army day. Hooah!